it's Chi-Town, it's Bears on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the likes.
The Chicago Bears almost traded Khalil Herbert to this surprising team. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Bears fans, make sure you also do me another huge favor by also hitting the like button on today's episode of Keek on the Mic. Once again, Bears fans, every single day this week, we have talked about different scenarios of moves that Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears could possibly make prior to the November 5th trade deadline in NFL to improve their roster. But this has something to do with a surprising NFC team reaching out to the Chicago Bears about running back Khalil Herbert. And as we all know, Khalil Herbert is a true trade candidate for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears prior to the November 5th trade deadline. He's kind of at a point where he doesn't get any playing time on offense. He's only a special teamer. He really just doesn't fit Shane Waldron's offense. But the Minnesota Vikings, yes, the NFC North's Minnesota Vikings actually reached out to Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears about running back Khalil Herbert prior to them trading for Cam Akers from the Houston Texans. Actually, Darren Wolfson of the Score North said on the Mackey and Judd podcast that Minnesota had another option in mind, and it happened to be Khalil Herbert of the Chicago Bears. That's what they had to say, Bears fans. Prior to the trade for Cam Akers, I'm led to believe the Vikings preferred Khalil Herbert of the Chicago Bears. It's 100% confirmed, not reckless speculation. The Vikings had dialogue with Chicago, absolutely had interest in Herbert, so it wasn't Cam Akers or bust. Now, clearly, the Bears wouldn't do the parameters of the deal the Vikings worked out with Houston. My understanding is the Bears were looking for a little bit more, maybe like a 5th-round pick. Bears fans, first and foremost, I am very happy that Ryan Poles put his foot down and says, no, you are not getting Khalil Herbert. You never trade within division, especially with the team like Minnesota that has been firing all cylinders. Everyone knows how tough the NFC North is. Everyone knows that the Minnesota Vikings are currently 5-0. Khalil Herbert definitely would have made that offense better. He definitely would have fit the offensive scheme, that wide zone scheme that head coach Kevin O'Connell runs over there in Minnesota. So it's not surprising whatsoever that Ryan Poles said, hell no. So obviously it seems like the Vikings were maybe looking for to give the Bears a 6th-round pick in return for running back Khalil Herbert. And it seems like the Ryan Poles responded with, no, you at least need to give us a 4th or 5th-round pick. When you look at Khalil Herbert, once again, he's a great fit for the outside zone running system that the Vikings deploy under head coach Kevin O'Connell. And once again, Herbert hasn't done much of anything this season for the Chicago Bears. He really doesn't get any playing time on offense because of DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson. He's only a special teamer. So his value could be a little bit down. But that doesn't mean that a guy like Khalil Herbert isn't a talented running back. I don't want to misquote this, but I believe that he gets 4.9 yards per carry. I believe in his career, he is a very good running back. And I think Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears, as much as it is great to get extra draft capital for next year's NFL draft, the Bears may want to be very cautious about trading a guy like Khalil Herbert. For one, everyone in the locker room loves him. He's a great locker room guy. Every time he gets the opportunity to actually play and he gets playing time on this offense, I feel like he does really well. This is a guy that's always going forward. He runs hard. He has sneaky speed, right? Maybe he doesn't fit the Shane Waldron offense. That could be very true. But I feel like when he gets those opportunities, he is a very good depth piece on this offense for the Chicago Bears. So let's say we trade away Khalil Herbert prior to the November 5th trade deadline. Let's say DeAndre Swift, he's been playing well, right? He has. There's no question about it. He's definitely turned things around going into the bye week, and I'm excited to see what DeAndre Swift does after the bye week. But let's say DeAndre Swift gets hurt. Now, if you trade away Khalil Herbert, all you would have left on the roster is Roschon Johnson, and then, of course, Kari Blasingame, and we also have a couple of running backs on IR as well. So you would be really thin at the running back position if you did, in fact, trade a guy like Khalil Herbert. To me, I don't think Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears should be in any rush whatsoever to trade a guy like Khalil Herbert, especially within the division. I think that's why Ryan Poles upped the price for the Minnesota Vikings, is because they are in the division and they are doing really well, sitting at 5-0 and looking like a prime team to possibly make some noise later this season in the NFL playoffs. The Minnesota Vikings look really good. You do not want to make that situation over there in Minnesota any better. Obviously, Ryan Poles said no, and that's why the Minnesota Vikings went out and got a guy like Cam Akers. But it's truly surprising that Khalil Herbert was their number one option. I'm really happy that Ryan Poles did say no. But there is also some things that, what is the plan for Khalil Herbert, right? Because he is in the last year of his deal. Let's say another team comes and says, hey, we'll give you that 5th or 6th round pick. Would Ryan Poles consider trading Khalil Herbert? I think he would. I think this situation was just a little bit different because you're talking about an in-division trade. And most of the time, you don't make an in-division trade, especially when that other team in the division is doing really well. But if they don't trade Khalil Herbert, he is a free agent next March. So to me, if you don't have any plans to actually keep Khalil Herbert, that does make sense to make the trade and let Herbert go elsewhere and maybe get some more playing time. Because once again, when you look at the situation here in Chicago with Khalil Herbert, he doesn't get any playing time. He's just now a special teamer. But to me, I would definitely love for the Bears to really sit back and think like, okay, do we really value Khalil Herbert? It looks like they don't. But once again, things can change if DeAndre Swift goes down and gets hurt, because then you would be really thin at the running back position. So I want Ryan Poles to really consider if he actually wants to trade Khalil Herbert prior to the November 5th trade deadline, because I feel like he could still be a very valuable piece to the Chicago Bears offense moving forward. But as always, if a team comes forward and wants to give you a 4th or 5th round pick for Khalil Herbert, then I think I would be okay for the Chicago Bears to move on from Herbert. As much as I like him, I understand it's a business at the end of the day. So overall, Bears fans, I just wanted to come on here really quick and share that bit of information. I just found it really interesting that the Minnesota Vikings were all in on Khalil Herbert from the Chicago Bears prior to making their trade with the Houston Texans for Cam Akers. Before I move forward, let me ask you guys this. If the Vikings did offer that 5th or 6th round pick, do you think Ryan Poles should have made that trade to send Khalil Herbert to the Minnesota Vikings? Or do you think that he made the right move by keeping Khalil Herbert and not letting him go to the Vikings? Let me know down below what you're thinking in the comment section. But as always, make sure you continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, be back for all new Bears podcasts right here on Keek on the Mic. Thanks, guys. And as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic. You can go and subscribe cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic.